Hi guys, and welcome to my first tutorial video, and today I'm going to be talking about upgrading the firmware in a DJI Phantom quadcopter. Safety first though, before you do any upgrades on your firmware you need to remove all the props from your motors. This is just in case something goes wrong. The last thing you want is your machine spinning up out of control with all the props flying around. So if you can just take your props off before you start, and we'll just make sure we're all safe. Okay, before we begin, we're going to need to download a few files. So if you go onto Google, just type in DJI. The first thing that comes up is a link to the Phantom. So if you click on that, what we're going to need to do is click on Support and Download. Then we're going to need to click on Downloads. We're going to need 3 files. Now the files are available as zip files or as exe files. My antivirus kicks out the exe, not because they're dangerous, but because not a lot of people have downloaded it and it doesn't recognize it. So the first file we're going to need is the current version of the Naza-M assistant software. Now the current version is 2.16, so I'll just quickly download that, and I'll just quickly save it to my desktop. The second file we're going to need is the driver installer, and there's a regular Windows one and there's a Windows 8 one, so download whichever one you need, and again I'm going to save that to my desktop. And then the last file we're going to need is the default configuration parameters. This is just the setup file really for the software. This is really important because a lot of people miss this, and this causes all sorts of problems with your machine afterwards. So I'll quickly go ahead and download that. Save on my desktop. Okay, what I'm going to quickly do is unzip these. Literally takes 2 seconds. What I've found is sometimes, depending on the order that you install these in, is they sometimes cause problems. What I tend to find is install the Naza software first, and it's just a case of running through the setup, clicking on next, choosing all the default options, and off you go. The next one is I install the driver. Now you'll need to switch your machine on as you install the driver. So if I click on the install button, it says is the main controller powered up? So make sure you switch on your transmitter first, and then switch on your Phantom, and then click yes, and then follow the instructions. And what happens is it should detect your Phantom and it should install this driver. It's not been verified, but if you click install this driver anyway, Windows will install the driver. There you go, it's now picked up that that's for the Phantom. You can ignore that message just because I wasn't quick enough. Okay, so what we've got now is the Naza software. If I click on the Naza software, you get this the first message pop up about announcements. I'm just going to click on don't show again and close. Now on my machine I've already upgraded to 3.16, and I had recorded a video before, but I had a problem with my video editing software and I lost the video, so I'm recording the video again. Normally you would get a pop-up box saying there's an upgrade available, but it looks exactly the same as this. Now I've already got the upgrade, so all you would do is click on the upgrade box, click on upgrade your firmware, and then what it would do is it would download the latest firmware and upgrade it automatically. You'll get some lights flashing on your Phantom and it'll beep a few times, but then when it's finished, there's an extra thing you need to do. You need to power off your Phantom, and I'll quickly do that now. Power off your transmitter, switch your transmitter back on, and switch your Phantom back on. What you also need to do then is make sure that you load up the default configuration file. The reason we do that is when I initially configured my Phantom, it changed all of these gain values. It changed them all to 100 and it put the vertical onto 50. That made the Phantom very sluggish taking off. And a lot of people have reported after upgrades that their Phantom's been sluggish taking off, and that's because you haven't reloaded the config file. Not only that, but a couple of options changed. If you go into the RC options, if you don't load a config file, it changes your transmitter to D-bus. Now D-bus basically will stop your transmitter from working, your receiver transmitter from working. You need to set your receiver, sorry, not transmitter, to PPM. Now if you load the config file, it does that for you. If you don't load the config file, then you need to do that manually. And similarly with the gain settings, if you don't load the config file, you need to restore those manually. The way you load the config file, just go to Tools, Import Parameters, open up the config file, bang, loads it straight in. Now what you sometimes get here is a warning about your compass being out of calibration. All you need to do is take your machine outside, recalibrate your compass, and everything will be fine. If you do get that warning message, there's a couple of things you need to be aware of. Let's just find it for you. The IOC. If you get that warning message, the IOC becomes disabled. So you need to calibrate your compass, come back in, plug it back into your computer, and just tick that little box there. If you don't, you will lose your IOC. It will not work next time you fly your quad. And that's it, basically. Those are the only things I've come across upgrading my Phantom. So make sure you load the latest firmware, make sure you load the default config file, otherwise you'll end up with sluggish takeoff, your IOC won't work, your compass won't calibrate, and a whole load of other stuff. You won't be able to communicate with your radios. I've written a bit of a blog about my original video, and you can get that at lookoutzombies.com. So if you want to go and read up a bit more about the issues I had and how I fixed them, then the blog's up there, ready and available. Thanks guys, bye.